There we go.
Okay.
I note that Mike Powers requests to attend today's meeting of the Policy Committee of the JMRL Board remotely due to personal matters, specifically personal travel, be approved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yep, there we go. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, go
Thank
for it.
you. Okay, first on our agenda, we have 3 policies that we've been plugging away at, and I think they're all in a very final or very advanced state of draft. So what ideally we might be in a position to recommend each of those to the board today. But let's start with the first one, which is 4.6 makerspaces.
So if the committee remembers, that 4.6 was formerly the Monticello Avenue policy, whatever the official title was. And as this committee's been talking about it for the last few meetings, decision was made to have a broad, high-level board policy explaining to the public why JMRL would have makerspaces, or basically saying we're going to have some makerspaces. So we worked on a draft here. I shared it with Fred, who can't make it today, but had a chance to read over it. And Mike and Ann, everybody got it, but late. My apologies for sending everything last weekend as opposed to the weekend before. But it's very broad. In order to support the library's mission to foster personal growth and lifelong learning for all by connecting people with ideas, information, and each other, individual branches may offer makerspaces. These makerspaces are self-directed learning and working spaces that encourage creativity, experimentation, and learning by providing access to new technologies, skill building, computer hardware and software, information, supplies, and equipment intended to support individual projects. Local funding dictates what level of equipment and staff support is offered in any branch. Users of JMRL makerspaces must follow the conduct in JMRL policy and any other applicable library policies. There may be fees associated with the use of materials or specific training requirements for certain makerspace offerings.
I think that hits all the bullet points. Is there, the only other thing I could think of is there may be an age restriction too. Is that true?
That's a great question that I don't have the answer to.
Well, if we ever want to have that possibility, then you could just put there may be age or specific training requirements. That doesn't mean you have to have age requirements, but it gives you as staff the option to do that in the future.
Yeah, I think that's dealt with in the procedures a little bit more, I think, for the different makerspaces, because like Northside's is young adults. Like if adults want to use it, they have to go to Central. So I think it might be addressed in procedures, but I think something vague in there about age. Yeah.
Just to alert the public.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't have a 10-year-old using a.
Not without, right, not unsupervised. So we would have them follow the general use of the library. You know, you have to be, at however old you have to be for the Safe Child policy. It's 11 and up, is that right? 12.
12.
I can't remember.
10 and then 12 to supervise.
12 to supervise another child. So how about any other applicable library policies? There may be fees associated with the use of materials, age restrictions, or specific training requirements for certain makerspace offerings.
Yeah, I think that covers it.
In blue, so we remember that this is different from what's in the board's handouts. Any other thoughts? That was a good one. Yeah. Looks good. I think it's high level and it hits on most of what we have been talking about. All right, Mike, there's one down.
Okay, so it sounds like this. Yeah, it sounds like this committee is ready to. Sounds like a consensus that we're ready to recommend that to the full board. If not, speak up. Okay. Next is 1.23 JMRL board committees. And we did talk through this, at least we introduced it last meeting, and we worked through at least some parts of it. And then we've done a little more wordsmithing behind the scenes since then. and just bringing all that back for everyone here. So the first change at the top, at the header of 2. So what we did was we referenced this back to the bylaws, and the bylaws are interesting in that the bylaws mention 2 specific board committees, as you see, 1A and B. The budget, finance, and personnel are sort of referenced and defined there. So here we're just referencing back to the bylaws. Then our practice has been that we have these other sort of ongoing committees, which are not referenced in the bylaws, except for some language in the bylaws that say that the president may appoint additional special committees. So anything else is a special committee as in terms of what the bylaws terminology. So that's what we just added, this special committees to be consistent with the bylaw language and reference over more precisely with that. And then ongoing just means that, hey, we're at a policy level, we're going to add these things kind of to the bylaws. At that point, just tweaking the policy committee language, which is 2A on your screen now. These are things I think nothing is new from the discussion last month, but this was sort of a take-home exercise because I think if I'm recalling, last meeting was the first time we'd really looked at this. So it was a take-home for anyone to have other input on or ideas for anything else that might need to change in 2A. I think 2A5 might have been a change from last meeting. Yeah. Before it might have just said proposed policies, and we actually review current policies, not really proposed policies on the regular schedule. So we struck that word proposed.
We say at least every 10 years.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think that's more precise than no more than.
You mean, and then paren, no more than 10 years?
Yeah.
Because we did some policies, we do take up in less than 10.
Yeah, but sometimes we'll take things up out of cycle if there's a reason something happens that we need to address. Yeah.
No, but so I think I heard Camille
Yeah.
suggest at least every 10 years.
I guess it hasn't been practice for Mike and for the whole committee for a long time for other board committees to submit policies. They have not been policy making bodies. But we don't want to shut the door to that, but I guess this doesn't shut the door to it. If another, say that the strategic planning committee came up with a policy that hadn't been considered in the past, they would submit it to the policy committee and then the policy committee would take it up. And this would still allow for that. I just want to make sure we're not shutting any doors then.
Yeah, it seems to me that
Yeah.
sort of allows for that because the highlights threw me off. Advise the trustees when revisions need to be made. In policy kind of seems vague enough that it could be like the policy as a whole body, not just individual policy.
I would say the same thing holds true for library staff. Like the managers might come to me at some point and say, hey, we need to change, like, here's what we're doing. Here's what the policy says. There needs to be a new policy to address this new issue, right? And it would follow that same path.
Like say somebody thought we should have an AI.
Yeah, right. We need an AI policy. Right. This is a great example because the AI working group will come out at some point and say, here are some policies we think the policy committee should take this up. So then it would become this group's problem. And that still works here, right?
I think that's a little more within the scope of 4. It's when you're doing things when requested. Now, if 4 doesn't say other, I mean, we're open certainly to staff or other trustee bodies, but it specifically lists the board and the director. So if we were wanted to broaden that just for clarity, that I think
Breaking
this
up.
might be the place to try and put something.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, Mike. I think we got you though. And I guess I think so, because I also think that it might be, you know, like I might have two different staff members come to me with competing policies, you know, like here's a, right, and it should come through me to come to the committee or from the board itself to say we need to do this thing.
I would leave it the way it is. This is
Sure.
pretty-
Okay.
But I do agree that that change needs to be done.
Okay, at least every 10 years. Okay.
Okay, technology was language that was kind of drafted by the technology committee. So if we have, I don't see any reason to change it, but if there was any reason to make further wordsmiths, this would be the time.
I think it all makes sense.
I like it.
Okay, and then there's just one word typo in number C, but D and E maybe only a D.
No E.
D is again just sort of aligning with the bylaws a little bit.
And that was just inspired by the Central Library Working Group. Just a recognition that other committees might be formed for specific purposes.
Okay, 3 doesn't need to be limited to standing committees. And then 4, David, maybe you can describe a little bit, but essentially this seemed like it was obsolete.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that the spirit of it is obsolete, but the placement of it certainly. There was a library staff association that was developed in the 90s to bring staff concerns directly to the library board, potentially.
It's before
And
my time too.
it was
When
before your
It was
time.
developed before my time, but I think it was developed in response to issues with a director prior to Halliday.
Right. So this is important from the board to say, like, hey, we support staff creating this type of thing, but in this committee's policy, I don't know that it makes
Yeah,
sense.
it's not a board thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's more of like an employee handbook thing,
Mhm.
that this option. Or employee procedures.
Except in the sense that here it says the board. And the handbook is a procedure that the board endorses from time to time.
I think as a staff member with no idea of what the history of that is, if it's still in there, it might just be confusing because there is no staff association that I'm aware of at this point.
That's what I thought.
And as I recall, the staff association that existed was mostly central staff member. I don't think it was like a,
Well, there was
Very
some regional functionality. You remember, they used to manage the staff book order.
oh, right, staff could get books at a discount.
Pre-Amazon, staff could order books at the library's
Karen
discount
Gillespie knows all
with their
that.
own money. You know,
Yeah.
I could give $20, and when the library was making a book order,
Right,
staff could order books.
glad we don't do that anymore, actually.
Complicated.
It was confusing. But I remember that from when I started in 2002, that was a thing.
Yeah.
That you
And
could
Karen was usually the person.
I guess my only concern here is removing anything that is a staff empowerment tool. You know, is taking it away when I don't think it's our board's intention to remove anything that is an option for staff.
I don't see how this would change if the staff wanted to, develop a staff association down the line. This certainly, removing that certainly wouldn't stop them.
Yeah.
Right.
I
I
agree.
don't think so.
But from our perspective, from the board's perspective, 3 is important, just to make it clear that we have these committees and that staff representation is encouraged and welcomed.
And with having D and welcoming, that means that we can have staff suggest other special committees.
Yeah, David, I think if it needs to be somewhere, this isn't the place for it. But I
Right.
don't know where that.
That's where I landed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely 100% sold on the idea of removing something that somebody would look at and say, well, you're trying to take away something.
Yeah.
But this is not the place for it,
Right.
and I'm not exactly sure where the place for it is. I mean, we could put it in the handbook.
I mean, the handbook is something that when people are onboarded, they're supposed to be reading, so.
Supposed to sign something that they read it.
Right. So
It-
that would be the place that most staff members would see it.
I will point out that we at least aspire to, and for the board to endorse the handbook every so often. So in that sense, David, if there were a mention of it in the handbook and then it were endorsed by the board, that would be the kind of the board level endorsement that you're,
Okay.
that
I'm
you
making
pointed
a
out.
note because what you mentioned that when we talked about this a week or two ago, and I meant to, I think it's a future agenda item. We had been doing it on July 1, and I think there was a year without any changes to the handbook, but I think there have been a few
Yeah.
tweaks, so we can have a future board agenda item for an endorsement for the handbook and include adding this language there.
Yeah.
And then maybe just the policy committee can
Okay.
keep in mind as we're reviewing. I pointed out that next year's list of policies that are up for 10-year review are largely, a lot of them are board specific. Here's how the board works. So if we see another landing spot while we're talking about those, that, oh, actually this makes sense, talking about the board and the staff or something like that, then maybe we could add it there as well. That's a good point though, Mike, and a good suggestion.
Okay, with that discussion, are we ready to recommend this draft to the full board?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Then,
Does that mean voting on it?
You know, it'll be a first reading today and voting in November.
okay, then records retention. David, I'll just let you talk through this.
Sure. So,
Last time, we just did a high level introduction last time, and maybe you can recap what we, at least as far as we got last month, and then what happened from there.
yes, so JMRL has kept for many years now a very detailed policy on records retention that basically mirrors a lot of the information that comes from the state library in their schedules for local government and libraries about what needs to be kept. And then along with that, we had a procedure for staff that was kind of like a simplified version of that. That was information for staff on how long to keep certain things, and that was only a couple pages. So my thinking about this policy in general was that it was way too detailed, and it required a fair amount of upkeep that wasn't happening on a 10-year cycle as things change. Like when this was written, there are new types of documents that didn't exist at that point that the state now has guidance for. So I sent this out to the State Library's Record Retention Office and said, JMRL is considering having a much, dumbed down is not the right phrase, but a simplified, abbreviated, thank you, a much abbreviated version of this that basically references the law and the guidance from the State Library that says we're going to follow that. And then maybe calls out some general areas, because this committee is always kind of balancing like, okay, this is what the library board is telling the world the library is doing, but also here are the types of questions people might have, and can we address some of those? And here's where we landed on that. So effectively, it says that we're going to follow records retention and disposition schedules based on that act. And in practice, here are a few things that would be maybe the most commonly requested types of records. And again, we'll make a distinction. There's a separate FOIA policy that JMRL has. So they go hand in hand, but this is not about FOIA. This is just about how long these records will be there. So just letting the public know that some of them we're going to keep forever. Some of them are retained for a while until audits are complete or legal requirements are met. Temporary records are only kept as long as needed for administrative purposes. and that confidential and privacy protected records are securely destroyed.
So does procedure 1.7 now basically have everything in it that was crossed out underneath?
It has nothing in it right now except what's currently there,
Okay.
but thank you for reminding me.
7 pages.
Yes, all 7 pages are going to move over to the procedure, which will be updated, and they're basically good. We just need to go through and make sure that they're still compliant and add anything that's no longer covered there, if there's new record information that's not covered. So basically taking this level of detail and moving it over into the procedure. And the goal is to have that done by the time the second reading of the board for this policy, so that by the time, if the board reads it today and votes in November, we'll put it up on the website right after that, and that procedure should be ready at that time, which is 3 weeks from today. No problem. Are you looking for some homework? I'll do this.
Let's do 3 weeks from today.
I was gonna say, where's your magic wand?
We'll take care of this. And most of it, to be honest, is not, it's pretty close already. It just needs to be verified. So, everybody okay with that line of thinking? We're going to remove all the detail basically and move it over to procedure. Okay, are you still there, Mike? We've lost him.
Okay, if so, yeah, I'm here, and it sounds like we can recommend this version of the draft to the full board as well.
Great. We're ahead of schedule. You want to look at the
Okay.
look at
So-
what's coming up?
Yeah, let's look at the schedule and at least kind of intro what's going to come up. Yeah, it seems like we have a half hour here if we wanted to take any of that time.
It says policy. Here you go.
I mean, we talked about some things when we talked.
Yeah, so here are the ones that that need to be reviewed as part of the 10-year cycle. Volunteers and audiovisual equipment, which is audiovisual equipment is again like very
Yeah.
detailed
Procedure, yeah.
and very procedural. Volunteers, I think it's more of a, to me, this is more of an important thing for the board to weigh in on. The AV thing is kind of like, here's how you use the stuff that's at the library. Volunteers, I think, is an important one for the board to consider. Just like at what level we're using volunteers, what volunteers can and can't do, you know, what any guidelines we have are. I think it's pretty good, actually.
How do you do background checks on volunteers?
We use a service, the same one that we use for hiring new staff.
Do you have to do a fingerprint?
No, it's not that detailed. It's like a name and birth date, and it focuses on identifiable information.
Schools, now do fingerprint
I didn't know that.
or Fairfax County does.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, we don't do that for our own staff. I don't think that,
And we also have covered in here that we don't let volunteers be alone with children. I mean, there should always be at least 3 people. That's the safe child policy.
So if we wanted to be thorough with, I agree that this looks like it's in good shape to me. If we wanted to be thorough, we could poll the state library or research some other, peer policies and just see if there's any bases that someone else has covered that we haven't thought of.
And we do have, JMRL
And-
has a volunteer coordinator as well.
Yeah, I was about to say we should ask her maybe to just read this over and see if there's anything different in practice from what she's doing or anything that she needs support for.
Probably Heather as well for the team
Yeah.
volunteers, if there's anything that is or isn't included.
Well, and since Heather was the volunteer coordinator before the current one, she's
the
good
prior incarnation.
perspective. Acacia is the current, Acacia Rogers, but Heather was the one before that, so between the two of them, they have a
The
good,
supervising reference
good
librarian
oversight.
in downtown library. Guess whether or not, the one thing that comes up with some frequency is like where the lines are. Well, this is pretty well covered. You know, where the lines are between what a volunteer can do versus what a staff member can do.
And we just talked about this with programming committee also.
Yeah.
There's kind of a
Yeah, there's a
intersection
lot of
there.
discussion about volunteer programming, you know.
And this says volunteers may conduct or assist with programs, so
to make
we
it
probably need
consistent.
to, yeah.
Well, they can conduct programs
Right?
the way it's
They
being
have to
But
discussed.
it's not without staff, that's all.
Yeah,
the
like
new-
what we're talking about is whether or not staff need to be present when
Yeah.
volunteers are conducting programs at the library. And the library is leaning towards making that a requirement, and it's a bit of we have some longstanding programs that volunteers have done that have never been a problem and are very successful. But on the other hand, we don't have any quality control over them. The library is not there if something were to go wrong in those circumstances. So my instinct is to have staff at least be there, which doesn't mean that the volunteer can't lead the program.
Because somebody
Somebody has actions. Thank you, Camille. That's a good point because we want that clear here, and that's where the
Right.
procedure is moving.
So maybe just tag it as a comment for now, David.
Yeah,
And
unfortunately,
it may end up just being a few. Oh, it's not the on. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, well,
we
you'll,
knocked out the first three in such record time.
yeah, we haven't turned this to the editable version.
Edited.
Okay, but it may just be a few words like conduct with staff supervision or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, under the supervision of staff. And the other one is that we have always said that the JMRL doesn't allow volunteers to have access to the patron database. You know, there are a lot of tasks that volunteers could do that would require access to Sierra is the name of the current database, but it means having everybody's name, birth date, and we've made that a very hard line, for better or for worse. So whether or not that needs to be codified or just left up to the director's discretion or any other scenario.
This could also be a place if we wanted to address interns, because I don't think we address that anywhere. And now that there's a library school at Old Dominion University, we've had more requests for library school interns who we've treated as adult volunteers. But I don't know if we want to.
We've let interns do more, the paid interns.
Well, the paid
Paid interns, like
We don't have a policy anywhere that addresses interns, right?
I'm not aware of.
Other than that, we support having interns. We don't address what they can and can't do.
This might be a landing place for some distinction there. Because the ones that are paid via JMRL that are on the payroll, we do allow them access. We give them training, we give them email addresses, all that.
I mean, at that point, they sound sort of closer to an employee than a volunteer to me.
Yeah, and the ones that you're talking about, Camille, would not be paid.
Right, they're doing it for class credits through their school, through the library school.
Do you have a question, Martha?
Is there training provided for the volunteers? Is that mandatory before?
Before they come and volunteer? Yeah, I think most branches have a training protocol. It's not standardized across. JMRL.
Orientation might be a better.
Orientation,
Yeah.
should that be mentioned in here?
Yeah, that's a good idea. There are a lot of times they're task specific. You know, a lot of, if you look on JMRL's volunteering webpage, we advertise for volunteer jobs. So we would want, like, Northside needs a volunteer shelver, and Nelson needs a volunteer gardener, and Gordon Avenue needs a volunteer cleaner or something, so that the training might be focused on what that task is, not a general, here are all the things.
But I think that's a really good point, though, that I could imagine even if it's just a
cutting
two-page
out.
or
Yeah, we're getting about every third
orientation
word,
saying,
Mike.
hey, here's your boundaries about, interacting with patrons, for example. All right.
I think what you were saying is that it would be best practices, which makes sense to me, and we can talk to Acacia and Heather about developing something that would be more standard.
But it's policy, not
Yeah, just a
procedure.
basic boundaries.
You don't want to get too in the weeds with it.
Right, that would be a procedure, not policy, I agree.
We do have the volunteers.
It would be procedure, but it could be a policy that without referencing the contents, that will have an orientation that every volunteer signs in terms of just sort of understanding basic boundaries.
Yeah, Camille has a good point. We do have a volunteer handbook.
So maybe we
Yeah.
reference that in the
Mention that
policy.
again, if you could, yeah. I mean, another volunteer, that would be important, shows some kind of procedure, not just,
Okay, these are good things. So what I can do between now and the December policy committee meeting is turn this into a editable format, add some of these things that we've been talking about in kind of red lines for the committee to start thinking about, and review it with the volunteer managers. And then I think, any other thoughts on that, Mike? Any thoughts on that?
It sounds like a good start. Thank you.
So the other one that's due in calendar year 2025, because for some reason, that's how we do the 10-year review by calendar year, is this AV equipment use.
Which includes a lot of
So-
procedure.
I don't even remember what this is for. I think this was for like,
It's when they need to use AV with the meeting rooms, mostly,
yeah,
which we already have a separate form they fill out,
we've got a form.
which
that-
is
that says-
referenced here,
Yeah,
audiovisual equipment use form.
that's under the age of 16 has come up, so that would have to be addressed. Because everywhere else, we changed the age of juveniles to under 18. But how much of this do we need, period,
In the policy.
in the policy?
I mean, I do see some legal things, like I don't see it here, but
Copyright.
copyright issues and permission. So
But a lot of
it does seem to me there should be some.
A lot of the last couple of bullet points are already in the AV equipment use form
Yeah.
that they agreed to when they
Form,
signed
yeah.
the form, so.
And that last point where you were highlighting, is there a list of available equipment along with replacement prices?
I think there was when this was written, but it's
Yeah.
probably not been kept up to date.
Yeah, I'm not aware of it.
Cause like, I don't think the hybrid thing is on that
Yeah.
list, right?
I don't know what the list is.
I think
I've
that's,
never seen it.
we should take that away, because unless we're gonna keep it up to date, there's no
Yeah.
way. On the meeting room form, there's a list, or on the meeting room webpage, there's a list of available equipment. That's reasonable, but it doesn't have replacement prices.
Yeah. I mean, I think the things that have barcodes to be checked out to patrons have a replacement price essentially, and where like a book replacement price would
Yeah.
be, but I don't think something like.
It's not like we hand that out to
No.
patrons, although they might here. Last time I worked here, I feel like they did have
Okay.
the equipment list and how much it costs.
You're
here.
saying they were appropriately following the policy and.
But whether it's current and up to date, I don't know, but I know like, we didn't hand that out to patrons at Central.
Yeah,
Like, oh, if you lose the Chromebook, here's how much it costs, type of thing.
I think I would be in favor of removing this policy and keeping the procedure in the form.
The only reason we need the policy, as Mike mentioned, is the copyright issue.
That's in our conduct policy.
Yeah,
That's in our
that is-
conduct policy.
It is,
Yeah,
copyright is addressed in conduct.
I believe so.
There's the scheduling thing, which sort of goes with the meeting room scheduling a little
It
bit.
should be addressed in the meeting room policy, right?
Procedure.
And
I guess, and maybe Ann would have some thoughts on this. I would like to think in advance about any ways that this sort of equipment can be misused. I think there are ways that you could misuse this sort of equipment that you can't just misuse a book. And then make sure that we are distancing ourselves from liability for that sort of misuse to the greatest extent possible.
What is this referring to?
It's referring to,
That's what I'm saying. I don't,
say,
I don't- is this like using, it's like using this equipment here?
Yeah.
But you bring your own.
like the way we use the form is for somebody's coming to the meeting room, they want to borrow the hybrid meeting equipment, or like even to check out the cable to use the projector.
right, so what if they're using the cable to use the projector and they're showing a movie that they don't have permission
Right.
to show? Like
Right.
if we show a movie, we make sure that the licensing fees or the copyright, that it's covered. But
Mhm.
someone could say, we're gonna show a movie to the whatever group that they're having.
Isn't that in the conduct policy?
I don't know that copyright is in conduct. It might be in the use of the copy machine, it's something like
I know.
conduct. But I could see it's conceivable
Yeah.
that someone, the Girl Scouts, or I'm not picking
Mhm.
on the Girl Scouts, we had a group in that was a cultural group, whether it's an Irish culture or Sons of Norway or Sons of whatever, and they might use the room, and the next thing you know, they're showing a movie because their Netflix account lets them show the movie, but they shouldn't be showing it in the library to the general public or people that come in. I mean, that,
They rented the space. I mean,
they didn't rent the space is free, but then you need to follow our rules, which include,
but they secured this. I mean, I don't know if the library would be liable for that. If they signed up for a room for their members.
they would be liable, right?
Yeah.
Copyright laws, but they're using our equipment. But it says it's the responsibility of the user, not the library.
I think circling back to Ann's question,
We're not
like,
using
what
it.
are we trying to cover here? What is this the maker spaces?
No, 'cause
Equipment?
that's separate. We just did that.
I think, I suspect the origin of it is like, oh, we got these nice expensive new projectors and these whatever TVs and things in our meeting rooms. And a lot of branches require somebody to come have like an orientation so they know how to use them properly.
Training, right.
Right, and then they fill out the AV form, so we know that they've specifically agreed to comply with our rules about using that expensive fancy equipment versus just using the room itself.
And
But
does
it
that
seems
equipment
overly complicated.
still exist?
Yeah, I mean, like in here, they would be using this projector and that speaker and whatever.
Not every branch has, and a lot of branches, what Camille was describing is like a mobile version of this that you have to get from staff, and it sits, like we'll use it at Gordon Avenue on Thursday this week,
He's right.
it sits there. Oh, was I right about?
David, conduct in the Jefferson Madison Library, number 1, improper or illegal conduct is prohibited. Section I, willful violation of copyright laws. Compliance with copyright laws in the US, in the use of library equipment is the responsibility of the user, which addresses that right there.
So what?
We already have a policy.
What does the board see as the role of this policy? Like, what is the board?
Public comes to the library
Yeah.
and then have this kind of equipment for use in their meetings. And that's
It's in the meeting room policy, I think. I think if that's covered in the meeting room policy, then we're done. We don't need it as a separate.
That's the only
I'm
way,
looking.
that's the only use of it,
Because
or the.
the only time you're gonna use it is in the meeting rooms, and here's meeting and conference rooms.
Because we have
There
a
should
separate
be
thing for the Chromebooks, I think, and they assign a separate thing for those
That's just an
also.
internal, though. There's no board policy. for it.
Okay.
That's a form. I guess I'm mostly interested in like what is the board, so So what you're saying, Mary Ann, like,
Meeting room policy.
is the board really saying that level of detail about what's available?
Meeting, when you share, when you, yeah, sign up to use a meeting room, it's nice, it would be nice to know that you have this
And you think the policy manual is the place to?
I don't think a policy.
in the meeting.
Policy.
Which it is not, I'm looking at the meeting room policy. And
Just a reference, that you have that.
I don't think the meeting room policy currently addresses equipment available to use, but that gets into the procedures and the paperwork.
Do the
is when we
procedures,
mentioned.
because we give procedures to the public when
Yes.
they sign up for the rooms.
Well, let me go back. Procedures, meeting room registration is there, but not procedures. We need procedures
Okay,
there.
so if this is, so it's due to be reviewed, and we can start
We
with,
can do.
start with a bullet list of what do we think is important? If we were gonna scrap this, we say we don't like this, this is too much detail for this. So we would say, follow the conduct policy.
Because the meeting room, yeah, the only time you're gonna use this is when you're in a meeting room. Most people aren't, the Chromebook's separate, right? And people aren't checking out the microphones or the polybar to use in their whole, like, whatever it is has to be used.
Not leaving the lines.
Yeah,
Can't leave the library. If it's damaged or lost, it's the responsibility of the person that
and
signed.
that's in the form that they agree to when they check it out.
Yeah.
So maybe we don't need this, but then we might need to add something to the meeting room use policy.
And you were saying that you wanted to make certain that the public was aware of the materials that are available.
I wouldn't wanna list them here.
Yeah, it wouldn't be in
It would be like
policy.
Audio.
JMRL.org or. So specifically, all we're talking about here is material that's available for use in the meeting rooms?
Yes.
That's it?
Should be in the meeting.
Then I think that either this should all be in the meeting rooms or that needs to be clear. You know, meeting room audio visual equipment use or something like that. And then it also means conference room and privacy pod as well.
And the form, the audiovisual form has like, I don't know, 10 bullet points with specific things, some of which echo the equipment use policy. And says, I have received and read the policy. And I agree to comply with it, especially these 10 bullet points. Like, so maybe the important bullet points could just live on the form.
What number is it, Camille?
5.7.
This is the policy.
Oh, that's no good.
Oh, I got it from just the website.
Yeah, from the front website, not the internet, intranet. That's where I'm going from. And that link does work.
Somebody put in a ticket.
About the internet link, I'll make a note to myself.
So this is what we're handing out to the public when they say, I want to use this stuff. Library card, compliance with copyright.
That's good.
So this says, this is correct.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this one got changed. Yeah.
Policy is incorrect, but this is reflecting reality.
It does say at the rate at sign up. That bullet, yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Oh, so she does provide them. She might be the only one. Or ours is up to date. Like,
Okay, so, well, let's just figure out what the path forward is here for this group. I'm hearing a mixed bag. Move forward with a policy.
No, I think that we should scrap the policy and put it in. Meeting. I mean, just a line item in the meeting.
Is there anything in meeting room now that?
So I looked at it.
I guess I'm sort of seeing one of the main, what might be intended goal is just to put the users on the hook for these, damaged materials and so forth. So does the form cover that? I guess they're signing a statement that says something.
Yeah.
But I would have in the meeting room that audiovisual equipment is available for patrons' use
Is it
in
in
accordance,
all?
in accordance with guidelines.
According with the terms in the form, maybe.
Like right under this, meeting room use requires the use of this is the meeting room policy I've opened here. So it'd be adding a bullet here that basically says there's audio video equipment
And there's a-
available for use, and there's a form that needs to be
Right,
filled.
because that's not mentioned here.
Available for use in accordance with the guidelines.
So Mike, how does that sound to you in terms of the workflow of the policy committee? So we would be effectively at the December meeting recommending removing the AV policy, but then having a off-cycle addition to the meeting room policy.
Yes, if that's the only thing we thought the policy was accomplishing, or the main thing, yes.
I like that.
And then updating the form to make sure that it's.
That's our job. The policy committee doesn't have to do that, but yeah, we need to make sure the form is fine.
Yeah, I don't want to go overboard on the liability concept, but just I think that is a real goal or need that the constellation of whatever policies and forms and statements that we have, we just want to distance ourselves from liability in whatever way we can, protect ourselves.
The second to last.
If we think the form covers it, I guess it's fine. And plus the conduct policy.
Would a staff member have to be there?
No, not necessarily. There are several buildings that have separate,
No.
separate access. Only Louisa, I think, is currently offering this on a regular basis now. Nelson had been offering and stopped with the new building. We covered this when did we talk about this? This was a while ago, but yeah, September of 2020. Okay, so if we do that, then we are caught up for the year, right? And then we've got a few there
Plus
that are
volunteers. Yeah.
volunteers, right? That one might require more work. And then for next year, just to get it on everyone's radar, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we're aware of. And like I said, a lot of them are very kind of in the weeds board things, which I'm glad to see these tackled, because these have been laying out there for a long time. And when you look at them, you'll see like, oh, they were intended to be the introduction to a paper manual. And, maybe we could roll all these up into something else. And then notary public services, which I'm not sure what it says, but there's certainly some stuff to talk about there.
And maybe do a continuing ad on how that's.
Yeah, the explosion
Overwhelming.
of Martha, were you there when we were talking about notaries at training day?
Mm-hmm. I was. And I was just in the Green Library and 2 people came up for notary.
Yeah. I mean, it is a very popular service. So we just need to make sure that our policies need to be. All right, Mike. Anything else?
Yep. Okay. I guess not. Thank you, everyone. And we'll reconvene for the main meeting presently.
Okay, thank you.
Stop recording. 2:37.